And we are back. Nimrandir coming back to guide Helwig the Last Warrior through some more Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. When last we left our hero, he was chatting with Sela the Paladin. So let's take a look here. We can ask her what she thinks of what's going on in Canabras. Sure, that checks out as a thing we want to know. It's complete chaos. It's lucky we're here to handle it, right? She smiles brightly, but then gives me a worried look. Does the way I talk bother you? I know I can seem blasé. Many good people and our protector Terendelev died here in Canabras. A paladin of Yamade is expected to be properly respectful and solemn. But I prefer to face my troubles with a smile and a bit of common sense. Grief is a weapon they'll use against you. It can undermine a warrior's spirit. It's better we hold off on grief until we've driven the last demon and cultist from the city. Yeah. Again, Helwig is chaotic. He's a Cade Knight, so yeah. So if we want to win, we can't be mourning our deceased day and night. Joy heals the soul. Sela will remember that. So is fighting demons all you want, or are you looking for something more? How about covering myself in glory and becoming the hero of 100 ballads? Or at least a dozen, if they're lively ones. Anyway, to be more serious, the area around the World Wound is the best place for a paladin who wishes to defend the weak and serve good. Being part of the crusade is reward enough for me, but there's something that worries me. I don't want to sound like I'm criticizing my brothers in arms, but the Eagle Watch and the other orders are focused on just one aim, the war against the World Wound. That's why they can sometimes overlook the smaller things. Ordinary misfortunes, you know? I always liked being a wandering knight because any moment I could get up and go help a poor rat folk whose family had been kidnapped, or an old woman whose favorite dog had gone missing. So here's my answer. I don't have some big important goal, but I'll be happy to help those who need it, a little bit here and there. Alright, so, cool. I wasn't quite sure if that was going to end up, like, starting a romance. I can't remember canonically. Sela's sexuality might not match Helwig, I can't remember. Anyway, so, I should go. See you! Alright, so, I heard an army is on its way from Nerosian. That would be good. Hey, there's Lann. I'd somehow completely managed to miss the poor guy before. I feel bad. I promise, it's not a Neither prejudice thing. Let's talk to Lann. Greets me with a nod. Here for a chat? I've been waiting for you to come and see what strange beast you've taken into your party. Tell me more about your people. Of course, what would you like to know? Are you really the descendants of the first Crusaders? More like demon spawn, aren't we? Sad but true. Without the demons, there would be no mongrels. Lann says it. I usually don't. It's the magic of the World Wound that affected our ancestors, and made their children the way we are. Unlike most in our tribe, Chief Sull fancies himself a descendant of the underground Crusaders, the ones our heroic ancestors left to guard the caves. I don't know if it's true or not. That angel came to our caves for a reason. Maybe he remembered us? Those were evil and dangerous times after the First Crusade. Hundreds of Crusaders began having children, and the babies were born with fangs and horns and warts that covered half their face. People didn't like the new look. The Inquisitors sure didn't. So our ancestors fled persecution and made a home for themselves down there, under the ground. They probably intended to find a cure for their children and hoped to return in time, but it never happened. Instead, the World Wound's terrible legacy was passed down from generation to generation. Mongrel parents can only guess what their child will look like. Each of us is born with a new mutation. Many are fatal. He stops and goes on quietly. Down in the caves, we usually don't congratulate the family for the birth of a child till they turn at least 3. Most don't even get a name before that. There's no point. It hasn't been that long since the First Crusade. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I mean, Helwig's human, so he has a short lifespan, but, I mean, they're like elves and stuff, but, yeah, it's still in their lifespan. Heck, Staunton might have been alive in the First Crusade. I can't remember the time frame, but, why do you know so little about your ancestors? Our lives are much shorter than most uplanders. Up here, only a few generations passed, and many still live who remember old Sarkoris as it stood untouched by the demons. Queen Galfrey, for example. Yeah, I think Galfrey is like 100 and some because of her magic youth elixir that, we didn't use its, like, in-world name for. Anyway. But where we live, mongrels start getting old much earlier than humans, much faster, and with more devastating consequences. Few live past 40, and fewer still live long enough to die of old age. Hunger, disease, and monsters from the deep are more effective killers than time. So for us, the story of the First Crusade is a legend that happened generations ago. There are no living witnesses. We have a tale of the wise and great ancestors who left us to stand guard in the catacombs. In reality, I suspect they were desperate wretches who couldn't figure out how to dispel the demonic plague and who were abandoned by their own kind. Sure, you're the only member of your tribe to call your people mongrels. Why is that? Because all of Galarian calls us that? I don't. I know Nim technically isn't in Galarian, but I don't think Helwig's saying it either. I don't see the point of all this hemming and hawing over what we're called. Anyone who finds it offensive or takes issue with it can lead the charge against the name. No one's stopping them. But personally, I'm not going to pick a fight over something as unimportant as a name. Yeah, the Winds of Time aren't agreeing with this, if this is the way Lann was written back when the AP came out. I don't know. I mean, I get his stance, but yeah, anyway. Do the tribes fight each other? There were some skirmishes, and I've been forced to kill my kinfolk before, too. He's speaking in a steady voice. Fights most often break out over food. We have laws in the caves, written and unwritten rules that we follow. We respect one another's right to live. But hunger? It can push a person over the edge. I've never, you can count on that, stolen someone else's kill. You're an archer. That's what archers do. Anyway. But I can understand those of my kin who tried. I think he means I'm guessing he means hunting stuff, but, to hear your kids begging for food and not be able to feed them is terrifying. He frowns and goes silent. Okay. How do you tell day and night? Yeah. Every settlement has a big gong, which we treat like a relic. The gong keeper hits it twice a day to mark the beginning and end. But this custom doesn't keep time very precisely. Every mongrel child has snuck up to the gong to strike it at the wrong time at least once, just out of pure mischief. Nothing could keep me away from it, not even the fact that I only have one ear, which means it would take double the punishment once I was caught. So sometimes the wrong strikes get mixed in with the right ones, and the tribe can find itself jumping up to greet the morning in the middle of the night. Interesting. Okay. What's it like in the caves? Oh! Lann gives you a broad smile, strange as if it falters where his human features meet his animal ones. Imagine that in the entire world there's only a few hundred like you. There's not an inch of fertile ground anywhere, nowhere to grow grain for bread, or cotton or linen for cloth. Your neighbors are beasts who want to eat you, or parasites who want to infect you with their larvae, and then eat you. And it's not that bad, because you can try to eat most of the things that are trying to eat you. Sometimes at the risk of getting poisoned, sometimes with almost no risk at all. In the worst years, there's not a single living thing anywhere to be found, predator or prey. That's when you eat mushroom soup. I'd say 3 times a day, but there was barely enough for once every 3 days. He shrugs. But life underground has its upsides, pun intended. There's no risk of losing the roof over your head. There's no bad weather. Well, not counting the earthquakes, of course. Alright. Cool. It's nice to know my ramblings seem useful to somebody. So yeah. What do you think of life on the surface? Must be very different from life underground. You know, all this experience you've had being in, a tower. Like I said, we were in the keep of the Grey Garrison, and now he basically, fled to Defender's Heart somehow or other. Of course. As far as living conditions, the surface is definitely a better place to be. It's easier to get food and water, not to mention build a house, and even grow a few things. In older, well-established settlements, you don't have to deal with anything scarier than rats, or maybe foxes stealing chickens. As for the kind of lives you have, I heard a story about demon worshippers abducting a whole family and sacrificing them one by one while the others watched. But there were some brave Crusader knights nearby, and they killed the villains and saved everyone. And I heard another story. A young blacksmith lost his arm in a fire, couldn't work to feed his wife and baby. They tried their best and lived from hand to mouth, but they were still destitute. In the end, the desperate blacksmith robbed a traveler one night on the road. But there were some brave Crusader knights nearby, and they caught the robber and threw him in prison. Not long after, his wife smothered their baby and hanged herself. Yep. Okay, yeah, well. Yep, that's a thing. Up here, the same person can proudly say he's protecting the innocent from demons, and then look the other way while the same innocent starves just because they were born into a poor family. Oh, hey, wow, they actually used the name. Queen Galfrey prolongs her life with sun orchid elixirs. The lore book just said, like, an elixir of youth. But that sun orchid elixir is the canonical in-world name. But anyway, they cost enough to feed an entire city. Back in our caves, everyone is equally poor, and if one person starves, the whole tribe starves. We don't abandon our own in times of trouble. It's the power of a tribe. The laws of the surface are made so that some get everything and others get nothing. I might just be a naive fool from the caves, but I don't understand how it's possible to have so much more and share so much less. Biting commentary from Lann the Neither. Anyway, look who I'm talking to. You must know life on the surface much better than I do. Oh yes, I also have a few questions for our feckless aristocracy. I'll go with the good option here. I'd never leave a needy person in trouble. I've been given more than most, which means I'm now more able to help. A fitting reply. I've performed an action that was good. Don't take my words as a reproach. I like grumbling as much as cracking jokes. He's obviously trying to muster a friendly smile, but it's an expression his face doesn't accommodate very naturally. I'd like to know more about you. Actually, I'm not sure I do. You know, Windowog already, told us a bit. Anyway. Let me guess. Your first question is, can you wear a hat with your one horn? Am I right? Yeah, I'll leave that one. So, you speak Common much better than the rest of your tribe. Funnily enough, Common isn't all that common underground. But your observation is correct. I used to live on the surface with my parents for a while, and had a chance to learn a couple things. The language, and the fact that every peasant who sees my scaly mug screams, "Demon!" and runs away. I don't know if you're interested, but my mom wasn't from an underground tribe. She was a smuggler, the kind that used the dungeons of Canabras to secretly move and store goods. One time, two gangs couldn't agree on how to share a prime cut, got into a fight, and the winners threw the losers down a hole, dead and living alike. My dad went to check if the corpses had anything useful on them, and he found a girl from the surface, barely clinging to life. An incredible feeling sparked between them. Or maybe the girl just liked men with scales and a cat nose. That might be it. One way or another, he got her back on her feet, and he later even left his home caves. She left her smuggling behind, and they began an honest life together. That's the delightful story of how old Lann came into this world. Next chapter, however. My family and I never stayed in one place for long. We lived sometimes on the surface, sometimes underground. We couldn't find a place to call home. Living in the caves was hard on my mom. My dad's appearance raised too many questions in Mendev. They're at war against the demons, after all. In the end, my parents decided to stop making each other miserable and separated. My father and I returned to our tribe. I think the peasants screaming, "Demon!" had something to do with it. Or maybe Dad just couldn't stand life without rat tail soup. I wouldn't rule out the possibility. So did you come with me so you could see the surface again? No, that wasn't it. I just don't have much patience for certain types of creatures. Demons, I mean. If they want to destroy Canabras, I'll be on the side of the people they're attacking. You're my companion, and companions should trust each other. I'm counting on you to give me honest answers. I guess you're right. I shouldn't have been so evasive. It's just that some things are hard to talk about. My family, for example. My birth. Heck, take me. I read that wrong. He's actually wanting hell to take him. I misread that. Turned out to be a great misfortune for my parents, all because I'm relatively healthy. I'm the best thing that can come from a marriage between a cave-dwelling mongrel and anyone from the surface. A healthy child with the right number of hands and feet, no apparent defects, no missing organs or other problems. They saw hope in me, so risked having more children. They thought it would somehow be alright. A growl edges into his voice. I could have had 4 brothers. The first was born 2 years after me, and died 3 years later. He didn't have a nose. Nothing even remotely resembling one. He could only breathe through his mouth. Mom and Dad were afraid to take their eyes off him for fear he'd choke and suffocate on something. But in the end, it was his weak heart that killed him. Then there was another pregnancy, and birth. I pretended I was sleeping, but snuck out of my bedroom and listened under the door. All those hours. It was very strange, but I never heard the newborn screaming. Mom moaning? Yes. The priest praying? Then I dared to open the door a little and looked inside. The priest stood there, very pale. One of them was holding something, a small object that fit in his palm. He asked, "Do you know what this is?" And the other said, "I think it's a head." Oh dear. Yeah, no. Dude, yeah, you don't have to keep going if it hurts. Heck no, I started to tell you and I'll make it to the end. You want to know why I followed you to the surface? Well, here's the reason. He pauses, exhales, and continues in a steadier voice. It turned out that this time Mom was expecting triplets. The first of the babies was born in pieces, and the two others didn't live long enough to draw their first breath. About 3 weeks later, my father took me to the caves. He didn't want to leave, I could see it in his face, but I think my mom and he decided it together. The curse my people have carried since the first crusade stood between them. Not to mention the 4 dead babies, and old age was rapidly taking its toll on my father. After we returned to the cave, he only lived another 4 years. So if you're asking me why I decided to go up with you to the surface and join the Crusaders, well, the answer is, I've always wanted to. I was afraid to leave my tribe, but it always haunted me that I'd die in a world where 4 crusades could do nothing to stop the beast from the abyss, and the number of victims kept growing. I want to change that. Or at least try to. And if changing things is too much to ask, then at least get a little revenge. Sounds like a misquote from the first Avengers movie? Anyway. The ones who are behind the world wound owe me a great debt. The lives of 4 brothers, all my mother's tears, my father's broken heart. It's a lot. It's so much that killing a couple of demons won't do it for me. I want to do something real, and I'm ready to pay any price. Call it my personal crusade, if you will. He gives me a slanted grin. I used to think that things would be better if I'd never been born, but now, I think I was born for this, to settle the score. Would you like to find your mother? No. The word flies from his mouth faster than an arrow. Then he pauses and continues. I don't want to meet her. Not because I feel any resentment. It's just that she's a half-elf. She's barely got her first gray hair, and I'll be a ramshackle old man. She's buried enough children. There's no need to make her witness the death of another one. I hope you understand. Okay, well. Yeah, that is, this is, yeah, jeez. He smiles, sadly, this time. Well, then I'm very lucky. I met someone who not only helped me choose the right path, but is happy to listen to my whining. So why didn't he go up and join before? I couldn't just abandon my tribe. I'm their best hunter. They'll have it much harder without me. But now that the demons have nearly destroyed Canabras, and the caves almost collapsed on our heads, sitting and waiting it out just wasn't an option anymore. Anyway, I'm more useful up here than I am down there. Plus, the chief let me go, which means my debt to the tribe has been paid. Yeah, I'm not going to ask about, true love here. I don't know if that's, again, I'm feeling like, the Mass Effect Andromeda thing, maybe there's like there would be a heart icon next to this. I'm not wanting to start a romance with Lann, so thanks for sharing, Lann. Thanks for listening. So yeah, how old is he? That's a good question. I'm as old as I look, no surprises there. Remember Sol? He's 10 years older than me. I remember him back when he was a fearless warrior, and day by day I watched him turn into an old man. Him and my father. Happens very quickly. First you miss a shot because you don't see the target as clearly as you used to. You think it's because your eyes are tired. You tell yourself it'll get better tomorrow. Then you notice you're having trouble breathing, that climbing is harder than before. See him clenching and unclenching his human fist. Your fingers stop bending. You have to tie your sword to your hand. You can't even put on your greaves without help. When you're washing your face in a stream, sometimes you catch sight of a gray-haired, wrinkled old man you don't recognize. And this goes on until one day you come across a cave beast and you realize you can't outrun it. My dad kept diaries, marking all the signs. And I saw it too. The last year, I had to help him get out of bed, help him dress, remind him to eat. Sometimes he forgot my name. I told him that we should have stayed on the surface, and he joked that dodging a goddess was behavior unworthy of a crusader. He meant Pharasma. So Pharasma is the goddess of the dead and fate. Called the Lady of Graves. Every morning I wake up and check how I feel, but there are no signs yet. Even so, I know I don't have much time. I need to do something useful before I forget why I came here. I want to talk about Windowog. Are you sure? Alright. Tell me about your connection to Windowog. My connection? I mean, where do I start? Turns the unexpressive reptile half of his face to me. We grew up together, trained together. She was the chief's daughter. She was groomed to be the best all her life, and then I came along. We were rivals, but we dragged each other out of tight spots, too. I've always been drawn to grand, heroic gestures, sometimes idiotic ones, whereas Windu liked to roam unexplored passages, finding new caves and making maps. She wanted to be a great huntress, the one who'd make it through the shield maze, but instead she... It'd be better if she died. The death of a friend is painful, but watching a friend become a shadow of their former self is unbearable. Yeah, were you, just friends? I mean, she said something, yeah. Wow, you really don't pull your punches, do you? There was a time when I asked myself the same question. Winduwag knew me better than anyone. She understood me better than anyone. She was my first woman, but we never loved each other. Maybe I could have grown to love her, but it always seemed like she never understood what love was. Maybe she just wasn't capable of those kinds of feelings. Yeah, I'm just gonna, yeah. If you ever want to reopen any more of my old wounds, you know where to find me. That's fair. That's totally fair. So let's ask. So, can you wear a hat with your one horn? Sure I can, but certain designs don't suit me too well. He speaks in a deadly serious voice for some reason. Okay. Sure thing. So, wow. This just keeps expanding. Alright, so you said you were prepared to risk your life to do something meaningful. What exactly did you mean? To invent a new salad and have it named after me. Oh boy, sorry, that actually tickled me for a minute. So, I love how he remarks grimly, but that doesn't sound like a grim statement. Like, that sounds like it's like a Spider-Man quip, you know? Truth be told, I don't know. It'd be much easier if all I really wanted was to kill demons, then a few more demons, then more demons after that. Good honest rage and no needless brooding. I think I actually envy the warriors who can live like that. But I can't. If life's taught me anything, it's that there are no easy choices. Dying a glorious death isn't enough. Some heroes of the Crusades did that and also saved entire settlements, or erected the ward stones. Their actions kept the lands of Mendef safe for decades. That's what I want. For my dumb, short life to have meant something. You think I have an exaggerated opinion of myself? Some scaly freak crawls out of the caves and wants to take control of the ward stones and flaunt Aomede's banner. Any fool can charge the front lines of the demonic armies and die there. What good will that do? I want something meaningful, you know? Even if I have to pay the highest price. Especially if I have to pay it. There are plenty of worthier people who need to survive this war and tell everyone else what nutcases we were. Alright, so I think we've finally cleared out everything that I wanted to ask in here, so that was long. Lann had a lot. I didn't... I mean, I can't say I'm surprised I didn't get that much backstory from Camellia, but, you know, I mean, and I know Sila's, but, you know, so anyway, thank you. Wow, that was, you know, like 20 minutes of talking to Lann, essentially.
Move out!
So, yeah, let's move out like Helwig says. We had some named people back here, right? There's some loot. I don't... Some... Journal. Okay. A young man in well-worn traveling clothes and a simple wooden symbol of Erastil on his chest is efficiently cutting a linen robe into strips to use as bandages. Despite his visible exhaustion, he works with zeal, singing some tune about red braids and ripe sheaves of wheat under his breath. He raises his warm, chestnut-colored eyes to me. Are you one of the Crusaders? Thank you for defending those of us whose talents lie off the battlefield. I'm Journal, servant of Erastil. Pleased to meet you. What are you doing? Duh. I only took my holy orders recently, so my god has only bestowed a little of his power upon me as yet. I'm sorry to say that the number of wounded fighters in this tavern is far beyond my power to heal. But there's a reason people say, have faith in the gods, but look to yourself first. I may not be able to help the wounded with magic, but I can at least cut up bandages. You from around here? No, I was just passing through Canabras. I was sailing down that old man of ours. The Great Selin River. So the Selin is kind of like, if you're familiar with United States geography, it kind of is like the Mississippi of, you know, the continent that this game is set on, this campaign is in. So, to a village by the name of Chili Creek. I happened to land in the city on the eve of the festival. I'm ashamed to say I had decided to stay for a day to enjoy myself. But I ended up staying in the city longer than I'd bargained for. Where's Chili Creek? It's a small fishing village. It's not even marked on some maps. But people do live there. What they don't have is a priest. They have no one to heal their wounds, no one to offer prayers for a good catch, no one to give their dead a dignified burial. And the world wound is a stone's throw away. So, I'll be setting sail for Chili Creek to serve my god and my people. Oh, We've revealed Chili Creek on the map. Once we've held Canabras, I'll be going there. If by the grace of the good gods we all survive this, you should come and visit me sometime. You'll find the village here, on the bank of the river. Aren't you afraid to go to the border of the world wound? I mean, you're young. I won't lie. I am afraid, but what can I do? Those villagers are simple people like you and me. Every day of their short lives is spent doing hard, honest work. That's exactly the kind of life I want. Something simple but meaningful. If I had centuries ahead of me, like elves and some other races do, I might have spared some 50 years or so to travel around the world, the young man says with a smile. Maybe even 100. Why not? But I don't have time to spare, so I want to spend my short life in the place where I'm needed most, even if it's dangerous. Especially if it's dangerous. I should go. May Erastil watch over me. Sure, I'll take Erastil watching over me and Caden and, you know. We got one more person here. We have a loot box. Okay. Forn Autumn Haze. A tall, fragile-looking elf sits in front of me, eyes closed. He's pale as a ghost, his arm wrapped in a blood-stained bandage. You spot other bandages on his body under his clothes, but even in such a miserable state, he manages to keep calm. Raising his eyes to meet mine, he says faintly, I am Forn Autumn Haze, at your service. His pale lips are reddened by blood, but I see no signs of pain or fear in his gray eyes. Forn Autumn Haze is a really short name for a Pathfinder elf. I'm just going to put that out there. I'm guessing he's translating the Autumn Haze bit, and it's probably like a long, elven thing. I don't know what Pathfinder elven looks like. Who are you? Well, he told me his name already. I've come here from Keonan because I'm a hunter. Keonan is, like an elf nation. Pathfinder elves are weird for what it's worth. They are like literally aliens. They came here from another planet in Galarian, the planet solar system. So he came here because he is a hunter, and all minions of evil are my quarry. I won't say more than that if you don't mind. We are strangers and of different races and cultures. I'd rather not tell you more than is necessary. Who wounded me? A sinner and accomplice to demons, the quarry I am hunting in this inhospitable place. Do you need help? After giving me a cold, intense look, he shakes his head. Do not trouble yourself on my behalf. A local healer tended to me. Besides, I come from a resilient, hardy people. My body will endure both the wounds and the poison delivered to... Wow, he was wounded and poisoned. That's not okay. I am Helwig. You can trust me. I'm the protagonist. After a brief pause, Forn says, it would be impolite to refuse such a direct and friendly offer. Who is your quarry here in Mendev? He was hunting a fugitive, a Descarite by the name of Kaelessa. It pains me to admit that there are heinous malefactors such as her among my noble kind. Oops, we got an evil elf. I managed to catch up to her in Canabras, and I wounded her. Then demons appeared and the city was engulfed in flames. I was injured in the battle that ensued and couldn't free her soul from its service to her dark masters. He expresses no anger or hatred as he speaks, only compassionate sorrow. I'm sorry for your misfortune, I hope... Yeah, I'm not going to tell him he's not a great hunter. No, that's fine. He purses his lips. There is no need for pity. Our ancient kind is blessed with great longevity. We gain a deeper understanding of the world than other races, and we learn our lessons better than anyone. I am elf-splaining to you. That goes for learning from our mistakes as well. I survived, which means I will be more prepared when next we meet, and then I will get more opportunities to elf-splain. So, sure, I wish to aid him in his hunt. Yeah, I'm not making that. Yeah, I'm not making a knowledge world check 26. I literally can't, even with a nat 20. That 7 int is, he's covered his eyes wearily. I thank you, but this is my mission, and I'm used to facing all manner of terrors on my own. I do appreciate your willingness to help. If you happen to meet Kaelessa, take caution. She has turned many innocent souls to the path of evil, and darkness has rewarded her with many gifts. Her appearance alone will tell you that. It is warped. The agate skin, the malicious stare of her blood-red eyes, the bestial teeth. She's more monster than elf at this point. I love that if you make the check, you can ask, I should go. Good fortune to me. So now he's asking for me to find and... As I've got a quest to find and kill Kaelessa. So we've been going for a half hour, and we've done, very little but chat. Hopefully, that's not, boring you in terms of content. Some people play games like this for the tactical fighting. I gotta be honest, I'm a method actor. I play this for the role-playing, so I'm sussing out all the conversations that I can, even when it talks about, one of my companions and whether or not he can wear a hat. So, anyway, thanks for watching. Feel free to check out the rest of the Nimrandir Plays Wrath of the Righteous series to see what brought Helwig the Last Warrior to have plenty of time to chat in the Defender's heart. And Nimrandir will catch you next time.